The worst thing about finally getting peace is knowing exactly when it's about to be shattered. It was a perfect Saturday morning, the kind of golden, quiet suburban calm that people pay $1 million for in Blackthorn Ridge. I was on my second cup of coffee, watching the steam curl up over my deck, when the door practically exploded with a knock. Not a friendly tap-tap, but a sharp, aggressive BM that belonged to one person and one person only, Brenda Thorne. 18 months in federal prison for embezzling from the HOA had done nothing for her personality, but it had definitely sharpened her edges, Made her look thinner, more focused. I opened the door, and there she was, standing on my stoop in a crisply pressed white blazer that screamed, "I'm back, and I'm still superior to you." Her eyes, those cold, hawk-like eyes that had terrorized this neighborhood with fines and violations for a decade, fixed on me. "You're still here, Ethan," she said, her voice like grinding gravel. "I thought a slumlord like you would have fled by now." Seeing the decline, I just took a slow sip of my coffee. "Good morning, Brenda. Just got back, I hear. Hope you had a nice time." That made her jaw lock up. She ignored the sarcasm. "I'm here to reclaim my neighborhood, Ethan. You and your little committee have destroyed the standards I spent years building. The standard where you find the elderly Mrs. DeLuca $300 for a visible trash can lid, or when you tried to foreclose on the Kirklands because their roses were the wrong shade of crimson." I said, keeping my voice level. "Those standards, Brenda." She didn't miss a beat. She just pulled a thick, overflowing binder, her infamous book of truth, from under her arm and slapped it against her palm. "I've documented everything. The lack of order, the decay, the lawlessness. You people think you can just ignore the rules, but I've been planning this. This entire community needs real leadership." That was the key, right there. She didn't see herself as a criminal who abused her power. She saw herself as a victim of a conspiracy, the only savior of Blackthorn Ridge. I watched her walk away, not toward her own house, but down the street, pausing at every single yard, snapping pictures, scribbling notes in a little pocket notebook. She was literally building a case against 40 houses, right there in the morning sun. I immediately called my lawyer, Miles. He was groggy, but I gave him the condensed version. Miles sighed. "Look, Ethan, you've got the security cameras, you've got the completely revised bylaws, you've got the legal precedent. Let her make the first move. A real move, something documented. We need her to overplay her hand." Easy for him to say. That same Tuesday, I found it. A crisp, official-looking envelope stuck in my mailbox. No stamp, hand-delivered. Return address, Blackthorn Compliance Committee. It was a 2-page letter, single-spaced, listing 7 ludicrous violations. My driveway had a micro crack. My grass was 1/2 inch too tall. My house numbers were incorrectly centered. The punchline? It demanded I correct everything in 48 hours or face fines of $4,000 a day. And the signature at the bottom read, "Brenda Thorne, Acting Authority." She'd done it. She had forged documents, claimed an authority she did not possess, and was using defunct bylaws to try and extort money from residents. It was pure, unadulterated fraud. I drove around the neighborhood, and sure enough, 8 other houses, the ones who'd testified against her, had the exact same letter. I found poor old Mr. Chin visibly shaking, worried about the fines. "They'll take my house, Ethan. I know they will," he whispered. "No, Mr. Chun, they won't," I told him firmly. "This letter is fake. Brenda has zero authority. We're going to fight this, and we're going to win." Miles was ecstatic. "Ethan, this is perfect. Fraud, harassment, claiming false authority. Send me everything. We're getting a temporary restraining order, and then we're filing a civil suit." But Brenda wasn't done playing on paper. She had to escalate. It was 2 a.m. on a Thursday, and my phone buzzed with a security alert. "Motion detected, front yard." My heart went cold as I pulled up the live feed. There she was, Brenda Thorne, dressed in dark clothes, a canvas bag slung over her shoulder on my lawn. She wasn't hiding. She was performing surgery on the truth. She was crouched down, using a ruler, deliberately tilting the camera phone at a low angle to make my 3-inch grass look like 5. She was manufacturing evidence. Then she moved to my garage door and tried the handle. Not just a test. She pulled. That's attempted unauthorized entry. I thought, adrenaline flooding my system. That's a crime. She then taped another notice on my door, red letters, final notice. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. Every instinct screamed at me to go outside, to yell, to make her leave. But Miles's voice was in my head. Let her hang herself with her own rope. So, instead of confronting her, I grabbed my spare phone and started recording the screen of my main security feed. It is 2:17 a.m. I whispered into the mic. Brenda Thorne is committing criminal trespass, tampering with evidence, and attempting unauthorized entry. I sent the footage to Miles and Chief Galloway immediately. Miles called back in 30 seconds, his voice tight with controlled satisfaction. This is it, Ethan. This is the evidence we needed. This isn't HOA drama anymore. This is a criminal case. Chief Galloway agreed to meet with me, but she had the same calculated perspective. If we arrest her now, she'll get bail, she'll get a good lawyer, and she'll just be more careful. We'll let her keep digging. When she's desperate, she makes mistakes, and when she makes enough mistakes, we put her away for years. It felt like I was being used as bait, but the logic was undeniable. We needed a slam-dunk case, not just probation. Galloway gave me a discreet panic button, promising a 2-minute response time. That tiny device felt heavy, the weight of the neighborhood's safety resting in my palm. I spent the next 3 days living inside the law. I was in my dining room with my laptop, surrounded by printouts of case law, HOA statutes, and my meticulously detailed Excel sheet. I wasn't just defending myself. I was building a legal fortress around Blackthorn Ridge. Brenda had taught me exactly how an abuser operates, and I was learning to use the system as a shield and a sword. The civil war in Blackthorn Ridge was about to go nuclear. 2 weeks later, the community center was packed for the HOA meeting. Everyone knew why they were there. I spotted Brenda immediately, sitting in the back, dressed like a corporate CEO, radiating that aggressive calm she always projected before a confrontation. When the open forum started, she was first on her feet, walking straight past the speaker's podium and standing right in front of the board table, forcing the actual president, poor old Richard, to look up at her. It was a classic dominance play. I'm the only person in this room with the experience to save this community, she announced, holding up her book of truth. These people, she jabbed a finger at Richard and the secretary, have let standards decline, property values drop, and they're too weak to enforce the necessary rules. Richard, bless his heart, tried to interject. Ms. Thorne, the bylaws you were citing were revised and ratified by a full community vote 18 months ago. Those revisions are invalid, she shrieked, cutting him off, her mask of control beginning to crack. They were made in my absence. They don't count. That was my cue. I stood up, walked deliberately to the microphone podium, positioning myself correctly, following the rules she always claimed to uphold. Excuse me, I'd like to speak, I said calmly. When I had the floor, I didn't yell. I just opened my laptop, connected it to the projector, and the giant screen behind the board lit up. The video footage played. 2:17 a.m., Brenda on my lawn, measuring the grass, trying the garage door handle. You could see her face, clear as day, her lips moving as she muttered about violations. The room went absolutely silent. The sound of her voice, captured in the middle of the night, was the only thing you could hear. When the clip ended, I turned to the audience. That was taken 2 weeks ago. Brenda Thorne is not enforcing rules. She is committing criminal trespass, manufacturing fake evidence, and harassing the residents of Blackthorn Ridge. That evidence has been reviewed by my attorney and the police. The room erupted. Shock, anger, murmuring it was chaos. Brenda was screaming, "It's a setup. He edited it. He's poisoning the community." But no one was listening. Richard banged his gavel until he was red in the face, and finally he gave the order. "Security, please escort Ms. Thorne out of the building. She is disrupting the meeting." As the 2 volunteer security guards led her away, she fought them, twisting back to face me, her eyes blazing with pure, uncontrolled hatred. "You think you've won, Ethan? You think this is over? I'll destroy you. I'll make you lose everything you stole from me. Everything." The doors closed, muffling her final, hysterical screams, but the message was clear. We had won the battle, but she had gone nuclear. That public humiliation was not going to make her stop. 2 days later, my beautiful restored vintage car was keyed, a long, vicious scratch from bumper to bumper. And tucked under the wiper was a note. Violators face consequences. She was escalating fast. Next came the anonymous phone calls, the fake lawyer letters sent to my neighbors, and the completely fabricated complaint to Child Protective Services filed against the young Martinez family who had bravely testified against her. She was throwing everything she had at us. I met with Miles and Chief Galloway again. Miles laid out the evidence: defamation, vandalism, filing false reports, witness intimidation. We have more than enough to arrest her. But Galloway was resolute. Understand the urgency, Ethan, but we wait. If she goes to trial on these, she gets minimal time. We need the big mistake. We need her to go for the grand finale. That finale came at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was watching my monitors when a massive, heavy-duty flatbed tow truck turned onto my street. Brenda stepped out of the passenger seat, looking every bit the official she wanted to be, carrying a fake lien authorization. "Good morning, Ethan," she smiled, that cold, chilling smile. "I'm here to enforce the lien. Your vehicle has $12,000 in unpaid fines. We are removing it now." I stepped out onto the driveway. "You have authorization from the current HOA board, Brenda?" She just waved her fake paperwork. I pulled out my phone and dialed Richard, the HOA president, putting him on speakerphone. "Richard, I have a tow truck driver here who says he has HOA authorization to seize my car. Did the board issue this?" Richard's voice boomed over the speaker, clear as a bell. "Absolutely not. That is fraud. The board has issued no fines, no liens, no authorization whatsoever for Mr. Miller's property." The tow truck driver's face went white. "Ma'am, you told me this was legitimate. You paid me $500 in cash." Brenda tried to shout him down, but she was too late. Chief Galloway's unmarked sedan and 2 marked patrol cars turned onto the street in unison, like an impeccably rehearsed play. Galloway walked straight up to Brenda. "Brenda Thorne, you are under arrest." Brenda shrieked. "I'm enforcing legitimate business. I have documentation." She waved the fake lien papers frantically. As the officer moved in to cuff her, she completely lost it, twisting away, screaming, her face contorted with pure hate. "You think you've won, Ethan? I'll burn them down. I have copies of keys to all the houses you bought. I'll destroy you all." An officer spoke into his radio. Suspect just confessed to possession of unauthorized keys and threatened arson, adding conspiracy to commit burglary and terroristic threats to the warrant. The moment she confessed, her legs gave out. She went from screaming fury to gasping, self-pitying sobs. "This isn't fair. I built this neighborhood. You all betrayed me." As they put her into the patrol car, she slammed her face against the window, still screaming at the 40 neighbors who had gathered to watch the spectacle. "I'll be back. You'll all pay." Galloway's car followed the patrol car away. Miles arrived seconds later, grinning. She confessed to arson and unauthorized keys in front of 40 witnesses and 4 cops. "Ethan, she didn't just hang herself, she tied the rope for us." 2 weeks later, the call came from Galloway, bail denied. The judge ruled her a danger and a flight risk. She was staying locked up until trial. For 5 years minimum. I felt the weight lift off the entire neighborhood and off my own chest. I kept my promise, selling 5 properties to young families at cost and donating land back to the HOA for a community park. Brenda had used her authority to terrorize. I would use my resources to build. But 6 weeks later, I received a letter. Finn, postmarked from the detention center. The handwriting was shaky, but undeniably Brenda's. "You think you won?" It read. "You forgot something important. You forgot that I have a daughter. Jennifer doesn't forgive. Everything you've done to me, she knows about. She's watching now. This isn't over. It's just beginning." Tucked behind the letter was a photo. A young woman, late 20s, with Brenda's hard eyes and sharp features, standing at the entrance gate of Blackthorn Ridge, staring straight at the camera. I documented the letter, sent it to Miles, and then I walked out onto my porch. I didn't feel panic, just a cold resolve. Brenda taught me how to fight, how to document, how to build an airtight legal case. If her daughter wanted to continue this war, she'd find that I was ready in ways her mother never anticipated. The Queen of Blackthorn Ridge was dethroned, but the princess had arrived. So, tell me, was I right to wait for Brenda to commit a serious crime, even though it put me and my neighbors at risk in the short term? Or should I have pressed the charges immediately? Do you think the daughter will be more dangerous than the mother? Drop your thoughts, your own HOA horror stories, or your take on justice versus revenge in the comments below.